Shalom Israel, and welcome to another edition of Yashar's 20-minute breakdown, where I'll attempt to break down the scriptures within 20 minutes. But first and foremost, as always, you know how we do. We give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Waha Rakah Kadash, and the Akims and the elders in the highways and byways pushing this word in truth and sincerity. All praises. And the elder women teaching the younger women. All praises to you too. And the camps and the solo brothers going out there, making videos, edifying the body, pushing the truth according to scriptures. All praises. Now, what I want to touch on today is the book of Ruth. Because in the Bible calls Ruth the Moabitess. So letting you believe Ruth is of another nation. She's not an Israelite. But you know what? Is she or isn't she? So the lesson I want to do today will be titled Ruth, the Moabite or Israelite, ? Because that's what's on the table. Now we're going to go into the scriptures and we're going to see if she indeed was a Moabite, as in native Moabite, or was she an Israelite living in the land of Moab and being a Moab, like a citizen of Moab, but not ethnically a Moabite, being ethnically an Israelite. That's what we're going to see. So I just want to read this one scripture first before I actually start my timer and we get into the lesson. It's just this one, Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5, where it reads, Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5, Trust in the Lord Yahweh with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Now, the reason why I just wanted to quickly get that one out there, because the thing about when you're reading the Bible, when you come with a preconceived notion, or i.e. a biased opinion, you can miss everything that is read. These little, innuendos, you could miss it all because you've already come with a perceived notion that this is what it is, and then you read it with that blanket mindset. The thing about the Bible, when you read the Bible, in order to understand what the Bible is teaching and what it's saying, you have to come from a standpoint of unbiased. And when I say that, meaning even as a Christian, shall we say, who is indoctrinated in Christianity, you've got to let that go and just have an open mind. And the same goes for an Israelite who's, knows he's an Israelite, trying to keep the commandments as best as he can to his ability. You still have to read the Bible with an unbiased opinion and read it for what it is, and precepts will back things up. And, the Spirit of the Most High, which worketh within you, if you are one of his people and keeping the commandments, will show you these things where others just won't see, no matter how much times they read the Bible. Because when you read the Bible, you'll find that the Bible calls Ruth, it actually says Ruth, the Moabitess. It says that about 5 times in the Bible. It says it only 5 times in the Bible, and it only says it in the book of Ruth. I mean, I've searched the Bible to see if it's written anywhere else, but it isn't. I mean, if it is and somebody finds it, please put a comment in and correct me, because I can be corrected. I can make errors. But I've searched it, and only 5 times the Bible mentions Ruth the Moabitess, letting you think she is of Moab. But when you even go into, which actually when I go into this lesson, I'm going to even go into the etymology of, there's a word, anyway, you know what, let me not give it away. When I go into the lesson, I'll do that at the appointed time. As I read a scripture, I'll go into the Strongs and we'll see the usage of a certain word. But, with that said, what I want to do now, I want to go into this lesson, and I want to start my opening verse would be Ruth chapter 1 and verse 22, just where one of the places where she is called a Moabitess. And on those notions, the other times as well, gives you the impression she's of Moab. She is of another nation. Yeah, but when we go into the scripture and start reading things, it's going to be apparent because it came apparent to me. So I'm hoping, because me, I like to keep it simple, and that's me. I try to break down the scriptures as simply as I can, to give the understanding. So, with that said, actually, and there's other points I want to I just almost remembered something as well. Even though the main point of this lesson is dealing with Ruth, the Moabitess, to show whether she was an Israelite or actually an ethnic Moabite. There's other points I'm going to make where it's going to show that where Paul calls himself a Roman, the one of one of Yahushai's, the one you call Christ, one of his disciples is called Simon the Canaanite. Yet we know there was another Simon, so that's how they want to differentiate it. But he was still called Simon the Canaanite. But we know all his 12 apostles, his disciples, were Israelites. And there's another time when a woman's at the well, we only know that she's an Israelite because of something she says, this woman of Samaria. She says something that shows she's an Israelite. But, I will just quickly touch them points, like I'll quickly just bring them points out, but then my main point is to deal with Ruth. And if I've got time, if I haven't timed down, I will deal with the other points that I bring out, just to show you now when we read on, where you get the understanding to show who these other people are, if they were of another nation or if they were Israelites, being strangers born in different lands, things like that, yeah? So if I've got time, I'll quickly clear that up also. But my main focus is proving whether Ruth is a Moabite or an Israelite. So with that, I've got my timer and I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Boom! We're away. Yes, we are. Here we go. The book of Ruth, chapter 1 and verse 22. And it reads, So Naomi returned, and Ruth, the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. Now, there's the point. That's one of the points where people read, and when they see it says Ruth, the Moabitess, they say, no, she weren't an Israelite. Bible says she was a Moabitess, which it does. But you have to bear in mind, like me, Yasharallah. Now, I might be called Yasharallah the British. Why? Because I was born in England and I'm a British citizen, but my ethnicity, my nationality is not English or British. You see, that's the point right there. And when you look at the Bible on a whole as well, every book remember, the Bible was written by the Israelites, to the Israelites, for the Israelites. Every book in the Bible are written by Israelites. Then you have one book, the book of Ruth, is now written by a heathen, and she has a book and she's a heathen? Really? See, these you got to think on. Every author and every writer in the Bible is an Israelite, and then you got one now, which is a heathen, the book of Ruth, actually a ethnic heathen. So these things you got to think on. So that already shows you it's kind of impossible for her to be an ethnic Moabite, having her own book in our records. You see what I'm saying? Now, that was Ruth chapter 1 verse 22. Now, I'm just going to quickly read Matthew chapter 10 and 4. Then I'm going to read Acts 22 and 20, Acts chapter 22 verse 25. Then I'm going to read John 4 and 7. Just to show you other places where other people was called something of another nation. But we do know they are Israelites. And then if I've got time, these scriptures that I'm going to quickly read now, I'll clear that up quickly. Now watch this. This is Matthew chapter 10 and verse 4. And it reads, Simon the Canaanite and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Just going to those points directly, and then, if I've got time, I'll clear them up. If I haven't, I'll probably have done it somewhere else on another lesson anyway, but nevertheless, this is Acts as well. Watch this, Acts chapter 22, verse 25. And as they bound him, this is Paul being bound, as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? There we have again. So, we've also just seen in the book of Matthew, Simon, one of Yahushai's, which is the one you call Christ, one of his disciples is called Simon the Canaanite. Then we see Paul telling a centurion he's a Roman. And then now we jump to the book of John, chapter 4 and verse 7, and it reads, There cameth a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahushai saith unto her, Give me to drink. So there, a woman came of Samaria to draw water. Now, I'm going to hold that there because if I've got time now, I'll come back and clear them up. But my focus mainly is on the book of Ruth. Because remember, I started off with Ruth chapter 1, verse 22. Now, what we're going to do, go back to the book of Ruth, chapter 1, but now we're going to go up to verse 1 to give a bit of context and understanding. We're going to go to verse 1, then we're going to jump to verse 4, and then we're going to jump to verses 6 to 8 to show something. Watch this, yeah? Ruth chapter 1 and verse 1, and it reads, Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the countries of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. Now this is like Naomi's husband. So Naomi's husband takes Naomi, which is his wife. So him, his wife, and his 2 sons went to sojourn in the country of Moab. So it tells you in verse 1. Now, when we jump down to verse 4 of the same chapter, watch this. Ruth chapter 1, verse 4, and it reads, And they took them wives of the woman of Moab. So now the 2 sons, which is Naomi's husband and Naomi, and the 2 sons went to the country of Moab. Now, the 2 sons took wives of the women of Moab, right? So just giving that quick context. Now, let me jump back to verse 4. Ruth chapter 1, verse 4. And they took them wives of the woman of Moab. The name of the one was Oprah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. So Naomi's son took wives, like both sons took one wife each of women of Moab, one named Oprah, one named Ruth. Now, when we jump down to verse 6, now remember, Naomi's husband dies, and then also her 2 sons die, leaving Naomi and her 2 daughter-in-laws alone. Yeah? So remember, 3 men has died. Naomi's husband and her 2 sons, Naomi's 2 sons, they die. But before they died, remember, they took wives. So they died. Now, when we jump down to verse 6 now, I'm going to pick up from here. Ruth chapter 1 verse 6, and it reads, Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. Now she's going to return from Moab. Watch this, yeah? For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord Yahweh has visited his people in giving them bread. Now Naomi had heard that the Most High visited his people. Who is his people? The Israelites. You can read that all over the Bible, showing you that his people, which are the Israelites, yeah? So she heard that the Lord visited in the land of Moab, remember, his people, showing that in that land of Moab, there are Israelites living as Moabites, taking on Moabite customs because they were born in that land and what so have you. So, this is what she says. Now, watch this. Now, let me jump to verse 7. Ruth chapter 1, verse 7. Remember, I just read verse 6. Now, verse 7. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, And they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. Now listen to what Naomi now says to her two daughters. Remember, they left Moab and they're journeying. But remember, she had heard how the Lord, the Most High, visited, his people, which are the Israelites that were living in Moab. Right? Now, verse 8 is key. Listen to this. Ruth chapter 1 and verse 8. And Naomi said unto her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house, for Yahweh deal kindly with you. Now she says, now Yahweh deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. So remember that's key. Naomi is sending her two daughter-in-laws back to the land of Moab, to their mother's house. Because why? Because she heard that Yahweh is visited his people, which are the Israelites, and giving them bread. Now she's telling her two daughters-in-law to return back to Moab. Why? Because the Lord Yahweh deal kindly with you. That can only be if they are Israelites. Because remember, she heard that the Most High had visited his people. So she's sending them back there so they can be dealt kindly of by the Most High, Yahweh. So that already tells you right there that Ruth is an Israelite. But watch this. I'm going to jump now to chapter 2, verses 5 and 6. Watch this. Ruth chapter 2, verse 5. Now this is when Naomi, Ruth has, like Oprah has gone back to the land of Moab. Now Ruth has refused to depart from Naomi. So she says wherever Naomi goes, she will go, and wherever. So she goes back to Bethlehem with Naomi. So she goes to Naomi back to to the land of Judah, if I remember correctly. Don't want to stray from the point, but she goes now with Naomi to wherever Naomi is going. Now at this point now she's reached into Naomi's people, which are Israelites in Bethlehem, and she goes into Boaz's field after the reapers to glean. Right? So Boaz comes back, greets his servants and somebody that he has over the reapers, and he sees Ruth in the field. And this is what Boaz says. So I'm picking up from here. Ruth chapter 2 verse 5. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? Because he didn't know who she was. Whose woman is this? And verse 6, and the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitish damsel. Listen to carefully what he said. It is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. Now he called her a Moabitish. Now remember, when you look at that word ish, it's a suffix, something pertaining to. Just like you have Jewish, those people that's claiming to be Jews but are not Jews. That's why you have the ish, something pertaining to. Not a Jew, they're acting like Jews. So he called her a Moabitish damsel. So when you continually read on, you will see that Boaz goes up to her and he deals kindly with her. He deals with her like a brethren. But listen to what happens here. Ruth chapter 2 verse 10. Jump down to verse 10. Then after he dealt kindly with her, said, she can do this, she can stay here, she can reap whatever, and, to charge her men to deal kindly with her and what so have you. Now watch this. Ruth chapter 2 verse 10. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? Now, she calls herself a stranger. Remember the law. Let's jump quickly to Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 35. Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 35. And it reads, "And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen into decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee." Now, you see that? Boaz is keeping that law. Thy brother be waxen poor, though he may be a stranger or a sojourner. What does she say? That, seeing I am a stranger. Boaz knows the law. Boaz is keeping that law, dealing kindly with his people, even though she may be a stranger or a sojourner, as the law states in Leviticus chapter 25. Now, let me jump to verse 11 of Ruth chapter 2. Watch this. Ruth chapter 2 and verse 11, and it reads, "And Boaz answered," remember, after she said, let me jump up to verse 10 and read it right through. Ruth chapter 2 verse 10 again, watch this. "Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger?" Verse 11, "Then and Boaz answered and said unto her, It has fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thine father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knowest not heretofore." Right? So now watch this. Now, Boaz just said, you've left your mother and father's house of the land of your nativity. Now, I've gone into the Strong's to look up that word nativity, and it's H4138. Yeah, in the Strong's, which is it's a Hebrew word, H4138, and it's the word. I can't pronounce Hebrew very well. It's the word moldeth, if I'm saying it right. Moldeth. That's what the word is. And what does it mean? Here's the usage: of your birth, kindred, birth, offspring, family, native land, the land of your birth. So you see, showing you that it can also be the land where you are born. Doesn't mean you are actually a ethnic Moabite. That's what that's showing. And you know what? That alone already clears up that notion whether she's an Israelite or a Moabite, with those facts showing you that Ruth is an Israelite. Or she was living in the land of Moab, and she's taken on Moabite customs and living like the Moabites do. But she is an Israelite. Full stop. Now, let's see, I've only got about 3 minutes left. Now, watch this. Let me quickly jump back to one of the ones I want to clear up. Matthew chapter 10, verse 4, where it says, Simon the Canaanite, right? Now, when we jump to the book of Matthew, we're going to read from verse 2 down to verse 5. Now, watch this. Matthew chapter 10, verse 2. And it reads, Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. The first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Lebanius, however you say that, whose surname was Thaddeus. Then it's verse 4, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Verse 5, these 12, Yahushua, which is Jesus as they call him, Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentile, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. There you have it. Now quickly, time is almost running out. Let me see if I can quickly knock this one out as well. Now, when we jump back to another one that I read, Acts chapter 22, verse 25, and it reads, And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman? Now, That's what he said. Let's get the full context of that. Now, watch this. Romans chapter 11, verses 1 to 2. And it reads, Romans chapter 11, verse 1. I say then, this is Paul teaching this. I say then, has God cast away his people? God forbid. So he hasn't cast away his people. He's always going to treat kindly to his people. So he made Boaz find favor of Ruth. See it there? Has God forsaken? Has God cast away his people? God forbid, meaning no. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Verse 2 of Romans chapter 11. God has not cast away his people which he foreknew. Wot ye not what the scriptures saith of Elias, how he maketh intercession to God against Israel. And then it says saying, then it goes into other, things. But there we go. Now, let me see if I've got 1 minute. I wonder if I can get this one out quickly before my timer goes. Now, this is John chapter 4, verse 7, where it says, there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahushua, which is the one you call Jesus, saith unto her, give me to drink. Now, when we go to the context, I'm almost out of time, so I have to go straight to the point. Now, when Jesus said to her, give me to drink, verse 9, when we jump to verse 9, she says, then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealing with the Samaritan. Then they go into a little conversation. When you jump down to verse 12, this is what she says to Yahushua. Verse 12 of John chapter 4. Art thou greater than our father, she says, our father Jacob, which gave us the well and drank thereof himself, and his children and his cattle, showing he's an Israelite. She's an Israelite. And when you jump quickly to Isaiah chapter 7 verse 9, it shows you the head of Ephraim is Samaria. Ephraim is the northern kingdom. I'm out of time, so I hope I made the point. Sorry about rushing that last bit. I wanted to get that out. So with that, this is Yasharallah. We out.